Hi, everyone, and welcome to our semi-annual Pediatric and Adolescent Committee meeting of the Oncofertility Consortium. I'm Lillian Meacham, the current chair of the PAC, and we thought last year we tried this for the first time, and we thought it would be nice to have more than just a once-a-year meeting and to have a chance to touch base at the halfway point. So this is sort of the halfway point, but anyways. So this is a slide that talks about the OFC meeting this year. As many of you know, it's from October 13th to the 15th. It is in Detroit. And Mahmoud just told us that the website is open. Online registration is not yet open because it is linked to CME credits, which will be offered this year. Yeah, so that's good news that the website's up. And from this, you can see that again, this year we are allotted 2 hours, as we have every year. And our time is from 10 to 12, so from 10 to lunch. And we look forward to seeing all of you at the meeting. The agenda for today's meeting is that I wanted to spend some time talking about the election process. So this will be the second time we are electing members to be on the PAC committee. We have 12 people who commit to being part of this leadership group. And so it's time, we're coming up on our second set of elections. So I'll talk a little bit about that. Kari and Veronica are going to talk about the concepts, which are ways of structuring and organizing around research ideas that you would like, that you're proposing might be PAC projects. And so we've thought a lot about that. We being Kari and Seth have thought a lot about what this could look like and how to find projects that are a good fit to involve, to be sort of PAC-wide. Allison will be talking about the database, which Gina and Lena and Allison have all worked very hard. This is the membership database. So we often get asked, how can I get engaged? What can I do to be more active in the PAC? So this is the response to that. And then each of the subcommittees will give an update, and that's clinical practice, research, and education. And please stick around to the end, because one of the things we really wanted to do is to get your ideas about what you would like this year's annual OFC meeting to look like, and things that you might like to see included. So this, for those, I'm going to run through exactly how people get into positions within the PAC. So in January of this year, we always sort of had co-chairs of the key committees. And so this year we asked each of the co-chairs to decide which of them wanted to be the chair and which wanted to be the vice chair. This becomes important as we rotate people through positions. And so the clinical practice committee decided that Kari Goriard would be the chair and Seth Rotz would be the vice chair. In research, Veronica is the chair, Veronica Gomez-Lobo, and Maggie Dwiggins is the vice chair. And in education, Holly Hefkin is the chair, and Anthony how do I say that, Veronica? Oh, she's muted. I'll try my best. Kayara, maybe some, no?
It's
Okay.
Kayira, I
Kayira.
think. Yeah,
I'm
but
close.
never use my pronunciation for anything. English is my second language.
Okay. It was agreed to be the vice chair. So then in May of this year, we needed to elect next year's vice chair of the big committee. And after much discussion, we thought that was because the vice chair rotates to the chair, then rotates to the past chair. So the vice chair is really the next person that's going to move up the chain. And we thought it was important that this be somebody that understood the PAC, how the PAC worked, what's the work of the PAC, what's the mission, what's the vision. And so we decided that the vice chair would be elected from the current chairs of the committee. And I am happy to report that Kari Bjornyard will be the new vice chair. of the PAC. And I think she will do a great job. She's done a ton of work to date as chair of the Clinical Practice Committee. So in July, which is next month, about 3 months before our annual meeting, we will open nominations from the PAC for the open 6 positions. You can self-nominate or you could nominate someone, but basically you're going to say why you would like to be a member of the PAC committee, and where you would like to be involved, and what you think you can do for in your role as being a member of the PAC committee. So we'll have more details on exactly what we're asking for when we put out a call for nominations. The current members that are on the PAC that are technically rotating off can run again. And then once we figure out how many people want to be considered, we'll send out a voting poll, probably in late August or September. So keep an eye out for that. So what does this look like? So after the 2025 OFC meeting, I'm going to rotate to past chair. Allison Close, who's been an amazing vice chair, will rotate up to chair of the PAC, and Kari, as mentioned, will be the vice chair. The vice chairs of the subcommittee will now become the chairs. And so for clinical practice, it's Seth, and for research, it's Maggie, and for education, it's Anthony. And then the newly elected members after the OFC meeting will be installed, and the roles will be customized to the members' interest and the PAC needs. So this is what it looks like. So the chair, as mentioned, so this is the current setup. And of the PAC, these are the people who are the current chairs and the current vice chairs. We have 3 at-large positions, and those are currently held by Tyler Ketterall, Gina Sunmacher, and Mari Vanda, who have all done great work and have been interested and very committed to our work. So this is what it looks like now. So you see we have 3 open positions for vice chairs of each of the 3 committees: clinical practice, research, and education. So if you're nominating yourself, you might say, I have a passion about education. This is what I've done in fertility preservation and education to date, and this is my vision for what could happen in the PAC. And then there are 3 at-large members, but we're really going to try to really define roles for the at-large members so they know how they can contribute. So electing 6 new members or 6 members. Okay. Maybe are there any quick questions? Also, put your questions in the chat if you don't want to unmute yourself. And Allison is monitoring the chat. We can also take questions at the end. Okay. Kari? Veronica?
All right. Thank you, Lillian. I wanted to review our idea and our plan for how we're going to approach concepts for new projects, both in the clinical practice subcommittee as well as the research subcommittee. I know those of you who have been a part of our clinical practice group, I brought this to the clinical practice group and presented this. But after further consideration amongst the PAC leadership, we really decided to broaden this concept proposal idea to both the clinical and research groups, because there may be times where for some, ideas that it maybe starts in one place and moves to another. And so this will make it a little bit more seamless, and also so that everyone is sort of using the same process to move this work forward. So if you'll move to the next slide, Lillian. So again, the goal for this is manyfold. The first is a systematic way for us to keep track of and to prioritize projects. The exciting part of our group is that every single year, especially at our in-person meeting, it seems that people bring many, many ideas to us, and we unfortunately don't have the bandwidth or opportunity to take on all of them, but we do want to keep track of them so that perhaps in other years or at other times we can bring them forward. We also want to make sure that if we're sort of putting this under the Pediatric and Adolescent Committee umbrella, that it meets certain scientific standards that we can all agree with. Also that the subject matter and recommendations, if they're coming forth from this project, are truly within the appropriate scope of the PAC and not maybe better suited to a different group. And specifically, we want these projects to be those that we all decide are important for us as the Oncofertility Consortium PAC to take on, and really has been thought out and warrants PAC engagement and support. So the overall goal of this will be first a short we'll call it an application of intent or AOI, but really this is an email to the subcommittee chairs who then can sort of take this forward and can potentially present this to the greater PAC leadership and decide whether this is moving forward or not. And with this, we've also developed some other materials to assist in actually developing full concepts, which we'll go through later. We sort of feel that the PAC has the bandwidth to support somewhere between 0 to 2 PAC endorsed projects per year. And that would be potentially in each the clinical practice and research subcommittees. Depending on the scope of the project, we all know they can take shorter or longer periods of time. And in our current sort of group, it really requires a lot of collaboration with many people who are at separate institutions, which always draws this process out a little bit longer than we expect. So just know that there are times that we may not have the opportunity to move a project forward that year, and it does not mean that it's not a worthwhile project. It just means that we're sort of saturated in work at the moment. The other thing that we're hoping to move forward that perhaps you've already seen us allude to is developing specific language to really reference the PAC and really elevate our status as a group of experts in our publications. So just as an example, how this will look is if this is truly a PAC endorsed project, this will say something like the use of anti-Müllerian hormone in female childhood cancer survivors by oncofertility specialists, a project from the Pediatric and Adolescent Committee of the Oncofertility Consortium. We've borrowed this kind of language from many other consortia, the Children's Oncology Group, and others who use the same language, and we think this will really be helpful for us. Next slide. So the first step of this process is really, one, to come up with an idea, but then this question comes up, is this a good fit for a PAC endorsed project? And so the questions that the chairs and vice chairs will be asking themselves is this a good fit for a clinical practice project? Or is this a good fit for the research group? And again, this application of intent or short email will be emailed to either the clinical practice or the research chairs, or potentially both. We've had that happen as well. And the goal of this is to be very short, just to include a working title, any authors that are currently sort of working on this or the working group. This may not and does not have to be fully fleshed out. And this is where this forthcoming member database that you're going to hear a little bit more about will really come into play, where potentially you can look for people who have specific expertise to fill in gaps in your own working group. And then probably the most important is really, what is the clinical question or questions that you're hoping to ask, clinical or research? This will be emailed to the chair and vice chair, again, of whatever subgroup you're looking at. And then once they consider this, the plan will be to either move this forward or to sort of say this doesn't really fit. If they decide to move your project forward, the goal is to then give you feedback within 2 to 4 weeks, and then actually allow you time to submit a full concept. We've thought about timing of when we would like to try and accept these AOIs or proposals, and we've sort of landed on the goal of having 2 deadlines a year. This is not absolute, and there may be times that people bring other ideas at different times, but this will be sort of our call for coming up with ideas and submitting these. And because most of our engagement tends to be around these PAC meetings, whether it's virtual like today or in person in October, the plan was to give a couple of weeks for people to sort of think about this and then submit them. So this is actually important to highlight that our first official deadline or plan for a call will be coming up later this month on June 20th, 2025, and the second one will be October 30th, 2025. Again, giving a couple of weeks after these meetings to allow for idea generation and to get this email out. And so again, if you're approved, then we'll talk more about how to develop the full concept. And then again, we'll decide after that point, will that concept move forward or not and be approved as a project of the PAC. Next slide. So again, this is a schematic sort of visually explaining how we're planning to do this. Again, you come up with a research idea, you develop the concept proposal, that's submitted to the PAC subcommittee chairs. If they decide that they think it should move forward, they'll present it to the greater PAC leadership and make sure that there is buy-in from the entire PAC that the worthwhile project to engage in, and then that would move forward as a PAC project. There are a couple of things to keep in mind, however, and go ahead and press the next one, Lillian. There are times that there will be places for edits or new considerations that will be brought up by the subcommittee chairs or the PAC leadership. So again, one would be just at that stage where you're developing the concept proposal that the subcommittee chairs have comments on maybe who else to include or how to sort of approach this topic. Next. Again, that could come from the greater PAC leadership, other expertise or other ideas that may really bolster these projects and make them really impactful. And next. Of course, this is not guaranteed that all projects will move forward. So it could be that it would move all the way forward to the PAC leadership stage and review. And then ultimately the decision is we have several projects between clinical practice and research, and there may not be enough bandwidth, or the judgment may be that it's a worthy project, but maybe just not under the PAC umbrella. Next. Or potentially even just at the initial stage where the idea, again, could be very worthwhile to move the field or the science forward, but maybe just not under the PAC. Next. And so one of the things we really want to highlight in this, and we hope to really engage anyone who's interested, and especially people who have not had the opportunity to engage in research or much in the past, is we really want to focus on mentoring. We are lucky that we have a number of members who have extensive experience in basic science research, but also clinical research. And we really want to pair people together and allow for this to be a rich and helpful environment. And we hope that during the project concept proposal, this is not looked at as a daunting experience, but that's something that we can work together with you on to move this forward. So if you're moving forward to the full concept proposal, these are the things that we're going to ask from you. Again, a proposed title of the study. This is hopefully a one-liner that gives the sense of the project scope and can sort of set the stage for what your hopeful product will be in the future, though of course it is subject to change. The proposed author list or working group with disciplines as well as contact information. Again, the hope is that we can use the member database to potentially connect you with individuals, especially if you know, I need a reproductive endocrinologist, or I need a PAG, or I need someone with statistics skills. This will be a way for us to help engage other members. Again, authorship may not be guaranteed to everyone who's initially on that author list or working group, and it really depends on contributions, and we're hoping to really get a lot of engagement from our group. Then we want a background and rationale. Part of this hope is that this makes the writing at the end of this project much easier. The goal is that we've already started to work on what could look like part of the introduction in the future. The specific aims, objectives, or hypotheses. So what, again, questions are you trying to answer, and what do we think we're going to find out? We also need a basic analytic plan. Again, we don't expect everyone to be a statistician or to have a lot of experience in this, but take a stab at what this would look like, whether you're doing a multivariable analysis or really just doing sort of simple chi-squared or students' t-tests. And how do you think you're going to accomplish above? Is this a survey? Is this using patient data? What resources are needed, whether this is from your institution or whether you're going to ask for other people? Again, the proposed location for analysis. So people who have statistics support from their own institution, it would be important to say that. And for those who maybe need statistics support, again, we may be able to match you with someone who can help with that. Who are you studying? So providing clear and concise inclusion and exclusion criteria, what information you're collecting, so which outcomes, any demographics, exploratory variables, et cetera. And actually going through the process of creating table or figure shells of what you think you're collecting, so that, again, this makes the sort of presentation of that data and the future steps a lot easier in the future. Lastly, for special considerations, is there anything else we need to know? Do you already have this data on hand? Is there something that we're missing that may be helpful? Go ahead. And so we've actually developed a cover page that will include all of that information, so you don't have to screenshot it or just memorize it based on this presentation alone. And this, I will show you where you can find this on the Oncofertility Consortium website. But this cover page really has the list of things that we are asking for you to provide, but also will be a way for you to actually include information about the primary investigator on this, the date that you submit it, again, so we can use this for our own tracking. You'll see at the bottom, we'll look at when the submission was received, when we've sent it to the PAC leadership, et cetera. That can help us in the future as we're looking at older projects. Did they get done? Did they not? Maybe 1 year, if we don't have any new projects proposed, do we have some old ones that maybe we have time and bandwidth to now work on? So this will be, again, that form just for the full concept. Next slide. So as I mentioned, once you have your idea, that gets sent out to either the clinical practice or the research group. So any of these you can send to myself and Seth for clinical practice, and then Veronica and Maggie for research. Here are our current email addresses, and hopefully they'll be more readily available from the membership database. Next. And this is the homepage of the Oncofertility Consortium website, and Mahmoud was very instrumental in helping get this uploaded. So you'll see down on that left-hand corner, there's even a little blurb about submitting a concept proposal to the PAC. And if you click on that, it will bring you to the next page. And here we go. Here's a whole little write-up on submitting a concept proposal to the PAC. And you'll see the first PDF, that is a clickable link, is the concept proposal submission form. So that is the, it's not clickable for you, Lillian, in case you were clicking on that. But if you go to the website, that will bring up that cover page for you to download and then use. And then we also have an example of what a successful proposal submission looked like, so that you can download that, peruse that, and use that as a template or a tool to help you complete your own concept proposal. I think that is all I have. So happy to take questions either now or at the end.
Kari, one thing that I wanted to mention is we've toyed with the idea of having concept school, and so it'd be of interest to us whether people think that would be helpful, like once or twice a year, to sort of walk people through. Because the first time I had to fill out a concept, I had no idea what I was doing. And I had many people who were very helpful to me to sort of make it make sense. So if you think that's something that you might take advantage of, maybe leave a comment in the chat so we'll know whether it's worth trying to pull that together. Any other questions? Crystal clear. Okay. We will move on to Allison talking about the PAC database.
Thanks. I have weird house, I think. I just moved into a new house. So I have to be in this weird room. About backlighting. I apologize if you can't. Can everyone hear me okay? So I'm just gonna talk real briefly about the PAC database. So the purpose of this database is to facilitate engagement, networking, collaboration within the PAC year. So you can see the code if anyone is able to get. You can just you can see on the right-hand side of the screen those types of things that we'll be asking. And basically, it's really a way that we can get everyone's information and we can help facilitate collaboration. So you'll just be to fill out a brief survey with your name, institution, email address. And one of the other things I think is to make sure that anything that you are, any kind of specific things that unique skills that you have, to include that, because people are always wanting to have to know if you're really awesome at statistics or have some experience with surveying. We'd love to know that information because we can help try to get people collaborating who have some unique sets. So if you have any questions, please write them in the chat. I'm happy to answer them. Again, the QR code is on the screen.
That's great. And for those who really want to get involved, be sure you list, taunt or just really let us know your unique skills. I always call them superpowers. And it's funny because some people, like, I was talking to someone recently and they had actually gone through an MSCR program in clinical research. And I said, well, put that down. They said, well, I don't want somebody to think I can be a statistician. And I said, yeah, but you might be able to be the person that can really talk to a statistician, to really bridge that gap. So this is when you should flaunt your abilities. So don't be shy. Okay, back to Kari, clinical practice report.
All right, I think next slide already. Perfect. So for those of you who are part of the clinical practice subcommittee, we hope that you all got our spring newsletter that came out on April 7th of this year, where we were providing some updates, and we've had some projects that have been ongoing, and now we have some resolution to some of them. So as updates on past clinical practice projects, our survey on the use of AMH in childhood cancer survivors, that was actually initially submitted to JAYAO back in December of 2024, and was finally just accepted at the end of May pending minor revisions. So we're hoping that that will soon be finalized and actually be in press well before the fall meeting. So certainly a labor of love that took a little bit longer than we had expected. So very exciting. We have a number of other ongoing clinical practice projects. So as sort of a springboard from the AMH survey came this plan to move forward with a Delphi to actually come up with some guidance on how to use AMH in the survivor population. And that project has been led by Julie Rios and is ongoing. We're continuing to have meetings about how we can actually move forward the official Delphi part. We also have the fertility follow-up in pediatric cancer survivors, looking specifically at the REI experience. This has been led by Genia Michieli, who is from Toronto, and then Miriam Safrai from Israel. Even though this is really a survey of providers, Genia's IRB was sort of requested a full IRB review, and we finally just got IRB approval this spring. And so hopefully that will be moving forward soon as well. And then lastly, a project looking at clinical conundrums. This is being led by Venetia Patel at Akron Children's. And she has developed an initial concept proposal and has actually gone through the process. So can maybe be someone to speak to if you have questions about how painful or painless the experience for the concept proposal has been. And she's working on finalizing her plan and collaborators so that we can move forward with that. Other than that, we had what we sort of affectionately titled an umbrella project. So really came out of the PAC, but was not an official endorsed project. This was really led by James Klosky, looking at the use of third-party reproduction and giving some guidance and considerations for pediatric fertility preservation counseling. And that has been submitted to JAMA Oncology and is under review and awaiting further information at this time. So we have been busy, and we thank everyone for their engagement and support.
Right. I think we'll go to the research subcommittee report from Veronica.
Thank you very much. And I just realized now that there's a whole nother project that has taken a life of its own, and we don't even call it a PAC project anymore, which is Kyle Ketterall and Leslie Apia's database that we're creating through the data commons that many of us are involved in. Just to update the group here, over 14 institutions have signed an MOU, and we are now updating the data dictionaries for each section, and this is really moving along, and this is very exciting because it's being done the right way. So I apologize that I don't have a slide for that, but it's such its own project now that I didn't even think of it as part of our committee. But there's two things that we've done this year. So many years ago, when we first met as a committee, back when we were the PIN, we talked, Francesca Duncan said we have this special tissue that we collected through the Oncofertility, and we really should be doing something where we share it and optimize the tissue. And those slides were transferred to the NIH, and we've expanded on this now, and we have this ovarian tissue image bank. And we always hope to share this with outside investigators. And this is the first year that we've had two proposals. We have a committee that reviews the proposals. And so these are the two proposals. The first is digital pathology insights into ovarian aging. And this is fascinating. Sanju Sinha is a bioinformatician, and he gave this amazing webinar through the Basic Science Committee on how they can use images to evaluate RNA expression. So it's like pretty amazing cutting edge science. And then Yasmin's group in Australia is also accessing this tissue now, these images now. And then the second project that we have was a project that was proposed by Mari and Tara, and they did a beautiful proposal just as it was meant to be done. We were so excited when we received it because it had all the pieces of it. We gave them feedback, and they've been working and putting this cohort together. And the idea is to look at surgical outcomes and considerations, sort of pre-op and problems and complications in pediatric populations. So hopefully we'll have some more concrete data from that next year. Thank you.
It's really impressive, you guys. That's really great. Okay, so now our third committee is education and outreach, and I can't see everybody. Is Anthony here?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing because Anthony has this beautiful, complex presentation that he's going to share.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll share now. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Go to slide share.
But yeah, there you go. Perfect. Let's see. There. Great.
That's good. So it is actually evening my time, I think afternoon your time. And I'm happy to be here to present a report from the Education and Outreach Subcommittee on behalf of myself and Holly Hofken. So one of the main activities we had this year has been to organize the webinar on fertility preservation during survivorship care. And this was organized on the 17th of March this year. The moderator was Alison, and the panelists were Joseph, Prasad, and Megan. The main themes that encompassed this webinar were integrating FP through survivorship, the importance of multidisciplinary teams in collaboration, addressing psychosocial impact of survivorship, and ethical and cultural considerations in decision-making, particularly involving minors. One of the main recommendations that came out of this webinar were to routine FP conversations, which integrate FP discussions regularly into survivorship care, institutional protocols that establish clear FP guidelines and referral pathways, enhanced training that is to educate providers on communicating FP options effectively, research and equity, which was to encourage studies on FP outcomes and address access barriers. The link is available to those who missed and weren't able to attend, and that to be able to recap on the webinar. The second main project that we've been trying to run is to update the PAC website with content that is very unique to pediatric and adolescent oncofertility. So we want to improve access of PAC content for patients, providers, researchers, and educators. And so we designed sort of a 4-user group that is patients, providers, researchers, and educators with 3 content types: the webinars, guidelines, and publications. So far, we've been working through Holly's institutional box account, where we had these folders where people can put either bookmarks or upload files or videos or PDFs or other kind of information within the respective categories, such that the PAC education subcommittee can review this, see its relevance, and either give feedback or incorporate it. The goal is that at the end, when we've created the information very well, we shall have the help of Mahmoud to try and update the PAC part of the OFC website, so that we can have easy access to this information from those who are interested in pediatric and adolescent oncofertility. So far, we have managed to review all OFC website resources. We've mapped them out and put special tags to some of them. We've uploaded over 15 curated resources, which include decision aids, webinars, clinical guidelines, and publications. And we've documented work and open shared folders for review. This is what the current institutional box account for Holly looks like, with the folders for resources for patients, researchers, healthcare providers, and educators. So if you would like to upload a PDF to the box account, you would there's a link that has been shared on email, and I can share it again, where you can go and get an access. Maybe if you access this account, you can go and try to upload maybe a PDF into the publications. And the video on the right is trying to show how you can do that, where you click new, you click file upload. And forgive me for my sketchy organization skills, but I was just trying to find the file that you can actually upload there. And that should be, so yeah, and the file is uploaded. Yes, the file is uploaded. And you can add a description or add a special tag to that. So adding bookmarks. So bookmarks are like links to information or a particular website that you can actually have access to. And this is almost in the same way that you need to upload the file. Now I want to add a bookmark to the patients under webinars. And then I'll create a bookmark, put the address URL of the bookmark, put a name of the bookmark, a short description. And then when you're done with that, you just click create, and that is done. People will have access to it by clicking on the bookmark. We'll be able to access the website where you got that information. We'll be able to review it, and if in case, if it is valid for the education, valid for pediatric and adolescent oncofertility, we shall have it uploaded on the website. So the next steps is to contribute to local guidelines and brochures, webinars, or educational tools, post suggestions to a shared Google Doc, where we shall review and refine current uploads. And we may have a proposed monthly spotlight of one resource via OFC social media. And the main goal is to build a globally useful PAC resource hub. That's my contact in case anyone wants to reach out in order to get more guidance on how to upload information or how information will be reviewed and curated on the website. So
I think you turn it back to me. Oh, okay.
Okay.
You stop and I'll share. So I love what Anthony's done. I think what he's tried to do is make it so that lots of people can contribute the great work that they're doing for consideration to be part of the PAC educational posting. So you've got something that you've worked hard on and you think other people could benefit from, follow the steps that Anthony mentioned, and then their committee will review it and then decide what goes up. Did I get that right, Anthony?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
So I think that's great, and this is recorded. So this recording can be found on the OFC website if you need to go back and look at it again. So now we are back to here, but oh yeah, okay, we're right in the right place. So now maybe I'm gonna pause for a minute and just, you guys have heard a lot of stuff. So I really want to see, does anyone have questions on what we've presented today? Because the next thing we're going to talk about is going to take us in another direction, which is what the October meeting, what you'd like to see at the October meeting. Any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself, speak up, or if you don't want to speak up, put it in the chat. Anybody out there? Well, the presenters must have been really clear. Everybody also probably ready to go home. This is a time of day that, at least on the East Coast, we're starting to pack up. So let's talk a little bit about the October meeting. We've done it in the past. We've sort of had information and clinical reports, and then we broke into the small committee meetings. And some of what doesn't work great about that is there are people that are interested in clinical projects and research projects, or clinical projects and education. So it sort of made it so that people couldn't do multiple things. And I love that our meeting, the PAC meeting in general, happens early in the meeting. So there's lots of opportunity to find Kari or Anthony or Veronica or Maggie or Seth or Holly and to float questions or ideas to them. So a couple of the things that we thought we might want to consider is this potentially interactive clinical conundrum, and where we would have an attendee response system, and the information would be collected at the meeting. Kari, do you want to say any more about that?
Sure. So a couple of things. One, this concept of clinical conundrums first sort of came up at last year's in-person PAC meeting. And so we've sort of thought about ways we can weave this into our work and also allow a forum for people to sort of think about how we should be approaching some of these. And so this sort of dovetails with Venetia's project, hopefully in sort of investigating clinical conundrums in the PAC itself and how we might respond to them. And so the goal would be that as part of her project, thinking about some clinical conundrums, we would actually poll the PAC at the meeting in person, and that would actually be part of the project, and potentially that data would be in the manuscript when that project finally gets done. So I think this would be a really interesting and interactive way to understand how we are all approaching some of these different and more complex and challenging cases that we seem to all come across more and more.
Yeah, I think it's interactive, and I think people tend to really enjoy those. So heads up that might be at the annual meeting. There were other things that we thought about highlighting, and that's hot topics in 2025. And just to give you an example, there are two that we're going to mention now. And one is that the ASCO 2025 guidelines on fertility preservation were published, and this is the citation, and the target population includes pediatric oncologists. But when many it's a very nice publication, but in some of the tables they've listed outcomes and outcomes from OTC and tissue transplantation, and the members of the PAC had a real concern that if you aren't in the know, you would think that these outcomes could be applied to the pediatric population. And so together we wrote a letter to the editor. It's longer than this, but I've taken out part of it, basically to say, while we appreciate the breadth of the updated guidelines, we would like to offer an important clarification regarding the applicability of the data in Table 2 to pediatric and adolescent populations. Although these data may accurately reflect outcomes in adult populations, applying them without clarification to pediatric and adolescent patients could be misleading. So this was received favorably. I think they have to wait a period of time after publication to gather all the letters to the editor before they can decide what they're going to publish. So we wanted you to be aware of that because that did come out of the PAC. And Allison, do you want to give a hot topic update on ALTE 2131 as a COG study? And I'm going to let Allison do it because she's the star, by the way. She is like, I keep hearing from everybody what great work she's doing.
So ALT 131 is the COG triptorelin study. So just information about the term is that triptorelin is a long-acting GnRH agonist. It's like Lupron. This formulation is a 6-month injection opposed to a 3-month. And agonists may preserve ovarian function by stimulating the ovary. There's very limited data on efficacy in younger patients or those without breast cancer. So the primary study are to determine feasibility of conducting a 1-to-1 randomized trial of triptorelin in newly diagnosed AYA patients, less than 40 who will receive therapy, and to measure ovarian reserve at 2 years post chemotherapy. Inclusion are patients who are post-menarchal, you have menses for at least 6 months, and then up to 40 years of, and any new cancer except for breast cancer, and then some sort of planned alkylating agents. If you are less than 20, it has to be at least 4 grams per meter squared. If you're 20 or over, then it can be the exclusion criteria there. And then this was really meant to be a very kind of practical study. And so fertility preservation procedures are allowed and encouraged, actually. So OTC, egg freezing. And then I think that one I want to bring up, so there are a lot of different people out here who do fertility preservation counseling, is to consider making this part of your standard fertility preservation discussion, because in order to get patients, they need to know about this study. And so if you kind of incorporate it into your normal workflow when you're talking about fertility preservation options, we hope that we can continue to improve recruitment on this. So any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Or if you are wondering if it's open at your facility, you can reach out to us or ask your CRA. So thanks.
Yeah, Allison's a star because she's enrolled several patients and only a few have been enrolled. So yeah, so we're really at this point interested in your ideas for the annual meeting. Do you like staying as a group meeting? Did you like breaking into subgroups? This is just you can ask questions about any of the presentations or give us ideas for the annual meeting. That'd be great. Lindsay has her. Oh, Lindsay, go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Well, so it was mentioned earlier when you were talking about the concept proposal, the idea of doing, like a workshop or a primer for helping people submit concept proposals. And I think that could be really nice to do as part of the PAC subcommittee meeting at the Oncofertility Consortium. Kind of having it like a boot camp or, or something like that. And folks that have, submitted a proposal in the past, as mentioned, might offer like a couple tips and tricks. I think that could be really nice. It could be a nice little place to slot it if you're looking for
I
a
think
opportunity.
so. Lindsay, I had actually volunteered to sort of do this, and I had volunteered to do it as my role as past chair. And I suppose at the meeting, I become the past chair. So my vision for this would be, let's get together in the evening with a glass, everybody bring a glass of wine, and we'll sit down and prove that this is not as daunting as it seems. I love that though, a boot camp at the OFC. Thank you.
Mhm.
Anybody else? I'm gonna stop sharing so we can see people. Or any questions? Is there anything else in the chat?
Just Mahmood is sharing the link to the meeting, so.
Yeah. Great. Listen, I know it's late in the day, so please feel free to email me or email any of us. We're more than, we really would welcome your ideas about how you would like the meeting to look this year. So, or if you have any questions about anything else that we presented. Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Lillian, for your leadership. Bye-bye,
Oh.
everyone.
Bye. Also nominate yourself.